Thank you for tuning in to Why Warriors. The purpose of this interview is to connect the dots between what someone does in their business with their underlying why. We like to refer to our whys as puzzle pieces. Everything that we have done that has led up to where we are today is a piece of the puzzle that makes us who we are, motivates us in our daily decisions, and is the makings of our why. We believe that to lead a life of purpose, and more importantly, to wake up in the morning, jumping out of bed with excitement about what we get to do, requires vivid clarity on your why. So let's dive in. Andrew, welcome to the show. And forgive me for calling you by your first name. You're probably not used to that.
No, man, Mr. Ellis is it's an 8 to 3 job. So yeah,
Yeah,
but I like being called Andrew too. It makes me feel like an adult.
good. All right, Mr. Andrew Ellis,
Whatever you
welcome to the
Andy.
show.
My grandmom calls me Andy, so you can call me whatever you want.
All right, awesome. So let's kind of jump right in.
Yeah.
And what we really, I don't think we've ever had an educator on our show before. Um, so tell us real quick, what it is that you do.
Yeah. So I'm a 5th and 7th grade social studies teacher at St. Edmond's Academy. It's in North Wilmington, Delaware. And I have the great privilege of teaching social studies. I can be creative in my lesson plans. Kids like learning more about blood and guts and war than they do math problems and pre-algebra. So really blessed to work at a school where I have a little creative freedom with the curriculum, and also have super talented coworkers and administrators who really encourage me to kind of go off the wall sometimes, and it's okay.
What's the age range?
Yeah, so St. Edmond's Academy is JK to 8th grade. We have 3 forms: a lower form, which is JK to 3, a middle form, which is 4 to 6, and a upper form, which is 7 to 8.
And you teach all of them?
I teach the 5th and 7th graders.
Fifth and seventh
Yeah,
graders.
so we do it. So Mrs. Ratura teaches the 6th and 8th graders, so we kind of split it up.
Yeah.
So you don't have to see my ugly mug 2 years in a row.
So have you always wanted to be a teacher?
I don't know if my sister will ever remember this, but I remember we were in like Cape Hatteras or something, like somewhere in North Carolina. I brought a whiteboard. I always wanted a whiteboard and made my mom go to Staples to get a whiteboard. This is back when whiteboards were trendy, when chalkboards were on their way out. But yeah, I remember teaching her about like sports and fantasy football and things like that. So always wanted to be a teacher. Kind of when it didn't want to differentiate it all from being a teacher, maybe being a chef for like a week, or I was never good enough to be in the major leagues or anything like that. So yeah, man, just a teacher and a coach, and can remember coaching with my dad. So yeah, just always wanted to be around kids and help them out.
So you and I had the privilege of kind of diving deep before this interview. So I'm going to kind of jump right in so the audience can understand, why you're here and the impact that you want, the ripple effect that you want to create, and the way education works. So answer this question, Andrew. If you can go back and talk to yourself when you were either in the 5th or 7th grade, what would you say to yourself?
That's a great question. I think I would say to myself that I was fine with the way I was. Like if I could go back, I think I would tell myself, be the best version of who you are. Right? Don't worry about what everybody thinks. Like I didn't realize that I mattered, like that my uniqueness and that my likes and dislikes and my personality, that was perfectly okay. And it was perfectly okay to think that I could change the world with just being me. And I was so worried about, what everybody else thought of me and fitting into the norm, that I just became introverted and really, had low self-esteem. But yeah, I think I would go back and tell myself that, you know what, dude, you're perfectly okay with being who you are. And that is okay. So yeah, I think I would tell myself that.
So you mentioned something that you at that age, you might have felt that you did not matter.
Yeah, I think, I wanted to fit in so bad, but I just wasn't, I was, I'm an introvert at heart, but I just think that I really didn't understand the fact that who cares what those kids think, right? I just was so uncomfortable with being myself that I just shut down. And I see a lot of kids do that today in the classroom. Like they're so uncomfortable with just being themselves and they want to be liked so much that they forget that, sometimes you have to look out, sometimes you have to look out for number one, and that's yourself.
So share with me this, like I'm a parent, I've got a couple kids, and obviously you're around kids all day long.
Right.
From a grown-up's perspective, we feel like we have this responsibility of like guiding these kids and all that. And we believe that we know what's best for them. Why don't you share with us from a grown-up's perspective of what is important to the kids that you get to work with on a daily basis in their minds, in their frames? What's important to them?
I think they want to be listened to, and I think they really want that relationship. And they want to have a voice, but sometimes we're so like we're in transactional mode where we want to see results in a grade book, or we want to see results on a test, that we really forget to, listen to the kids. What do they have to say? How do they formulate opinions? What do they like? I think every teacher should be able to ask every one of their students, something in the hallway that means something to them. Oh, how was the beach? Because they know they go to the beach. Or what did you think of the Eagles game and Doug Peterson's calls, because they're diehard Eagles fans? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe they're Cowboys fans and you want to ride them because the Cowboys stink. But whatever it is, like, make them feel like, you're dehumanized for a minute. Teachers don't just go in their closet and shut it down for the weekend and then come back and be Mr. Ellis on Monday, right? I think we have to really like dehumanize ourselves to them and, get to know them as people.
So what do you think these kids are, what's their biggest challenge going through? Like I remember going to school and, I was introvert just like yourself, and we moved countries and schools all the time. And I didn't like the first day of school. It was like, there's this nervousness and all that. I really couldn't care less about a lot of things the grownups were caring about,
Yeah.
So what do you think, like a lot of these kids, like now we're into the second week of school, it's perfect timing for this question, is like, what's their big challenge? Like, what's the one thing that's kind of bugging them, or what are they trying to figure out?
I think they try to hide their inadequacies a lot. I think they try to hide who they really are as people to conform to what's popular at the time or where they're going to sit at lunch. So I think the biggest struggle is internally figuring out who they are. And at the same time, they're having these expectations of getting these great grades. And they struggle. Middle school's tough. Like you have the social aspect of things. You have the grade book aspect of things. Then you go home and deal with things at home. So I think it's really trying to, figure out who they are as people, what they like, what they dislike, and just trying to figure out and zig and zag through the middle school life.
So I'm hearing like a big separation of, what the teachers are trying to do and teach and what is important to them versus the students. So it seems like there's a misalignment here.
No, 100%. So I think we're so indoctrinated as a society with grades, like the letter grade. So when you come home and, Johnny has a big test, Johnny, what'd you get on the test? Well, how about you ask Johnny what their grade is, how their day was? I think sometimes like it's such a loose situation when you deal transactionally with kids. You deal with the people, because if you deal with a person, you're guaranteed to win. You're guaranteed to make an impact. You're guaranteed to touch somebody's life. Right? They may not realize it then, but hey, Mr. Ellis really took the time to get to know me, and I appreciate him for that. They're not going to remember what you teach. I mean, you can teach all you want, they're not going to remember it, but they're going to remember the relationship in 5 years. They're going to, remember you took 5 days to get to know them instead of cram down map skills, right? It's getting to know them, realizing that they're people. You're dealing with people 180 days of the year, Right? You can take 5 days to, figure out how they think, figure out what they like, let them know that they have a voice.
So tell me about these 5 days. I assume it's the first 5 days of the school year?
Yeah, so doing different activities. The first day of school is so played out. I can remember my first days of school. I'm sure you can too. It was some, put together, get to know you session for, with a worksheet, and you go out and interview each other, and that's it. And then the other 179 days of school are curriculum, right? All the knowledge that you have to get because somebody in the government needs to know your test scores and make sure you're doing the right thing. But in reality, like, you're dealing with a human being for 179 days of the year. Get to know how they think, get to know what they like, get to know them in person, what makes them tick, how they react to how they react to you. Okay, that's much more important than, learning about whatever it is that you're learning about the second day of school.
So, all right. So if you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
I would want every middle schooler, high school, or elementary school student to be confident in who they are as people. Like, shut down I have to conform to this, so I'm going to act like this, but this isn't really who I am. Right? Just be confident in their own skin, and understand that, the best version of themselves can absolutely change the world. And I think a lot of kids don't realize that. I think a lot of kids, shut down. It's like, I don't matter. Like, this test, I want to fail it. Like, no, you're not. You got to give kids confidence, like a confident kid. But it's a shame that a lot of students sit quiet and worry about things they shouldn't have to worry about.
So do you think that it's the system that's broken in terms of the importance and the weight that we put on what we can measure, like grades and whatnot? Or is it really more about the relationship that we're hoping that our teachers are having with the children? Like,
and I think it's more the dehumanizing of teachers and, teachers like robots, and poor teachers, especially in public school, they have to make sure material is covered by a certain date. And they have no time to get to know the kids. But, I challenge teachers and educators to see what no one else sees. See the person, not the grade, right? And the only way to see the person is to get to know the person. I think we should be asking questions instead of giving answers. Getting them to think and questioning instead of telling them what to do. So I think a lot of it has to do with the relationship piece.
So how does that factor in, let's say, your typical sequence of growing up as you go to school,
Sure.
Middle school, high school, and then you go to college application, what college you're going to get into, which determines what kind of job you're going to get. So in terms of metrics, where does all this fall in?
I think we're so worried about what we're going to get on the PSSA test or what we're getting on this standardized test. We spend 38 hours a school year doing standardized tests. Not that per minute. You think a school year is 8 hours a day, right? Maybe 4 school days a year on standardized tests. When has anybody on a job application ever asked you what you got on a standardized test in middle school? Right? When is anybody, do they ask what you got on the SAT? You go out for your first job? I never seen that before. I think we get lost in the statistics of it and the metrics of it because that appeases certain people that aren't even educators. And we really lose the fact that we are dealing with young people and they're going through a tough time in their life. Growing up's not easy. But we oftentimes lose that fact because we want to be academically elite. And we sacrifice the teacher to student relationship for content and test prep and test results.
So share with us an example of a good teacher behavior as it pertains to when you were a kid. Let's talk about Mr. Anderson.
So in high school, I got diagnosed with depression after college. And I think in high school, with being an introvert, I was definitely, had depression and, didn't really know how to deal with it or voice out. So I was quite the introvert and quite the shy kid. Every stressor of life was, who am I going to sit with at the lunch table? And no kid should have to feel that way, but I didn't really know how to express myself But I had this one special gym teacher named Mr. Anderson. He was my gym and health teacher, and Mr. Anderson really got to know the person. And he realized that I just needed like a buddy, a friend, a pal, like to talk to. And I can remember always looking forward to after gym class because I could go ride him about the Cowboys losing or about sports. Or I remember I used to the newspaper. I know the newspaper is a lost term to a lot of people. The newspaper had a lot of lines for scores. So like the Eagles would be 7-point favorites. And I would copy and I would cut it out and make a copy of these lines. So college lines, and there must have been 40 games, right? And I would say, all right, let's have a competition. I'll fill it out and you fill it out and see who wins. And he didn't have to do that. Like that wasn't part of his job. So there was this time when I was in Algebra 2 class, I was sitting in the back and I can remember like special moments in your life. You just remember where you were. I was in the back of an Algebra 2 class and he comes in and we had trailers at the time because there was a new part of the building being built. And he says, Andrew, I need to see you. Like, I'm taking you out of math class. I was like, I'm not mad about it. It was right by my 16th birthday, and I got a Matt Schaub jersey. And this Matt Schaub graduated my high school in 1999, went to Virginia, and then was Michael Vick's backup with the Atlanta Falcons. And then he went on to play for the Texans, make a lot more money than I'll ever make. But I had his rookie jersey, and no rookies get their jersey. He was a third-round pick. First-round picks get jerseys, not third-round picks. So I had it, him and his mother. That was just me and his mother had a jersey. So he knew I had the jersey, so he tells me, you know what, go stop by your locker, get the jersey. I want to see it. I know you brought it in, so stop by my office. So I was like, all right. So went to my locker, got my jersey, and as I'm walking in, I see this like tall, athletic, gangly-looking dude, and it's Matt Schaub. Mr. Anderson goes, you know what, you got the rest of the day, like an hour and a half, ask him whatever you want. So I got to spend that time with Matt, and I got to, and it wasn't even the time I spent with Matt. Like, that was great. Like, Matt still playing. He's the backup for the Falcons again. It wasn't even that. It was the fact that, some teacher, knew I needed something to look up to, knew I needed a friend, knew I needed something to excite myself, and he did that for me. He didn't have to. Like, he could have spent that time with Matt. He was his basketball coach. But he, unselfishly decided that, this means a lot to Andrew. Let's invite him down and, make his day, make my school year, really.
Wow.
And Mr. Anderson probably doesn't even, I contacted him before I did my TEDx talk. But Mr. Anderson I'm sure he doesn't even remember it, and that's okay. Like, but it was the fact that, a teacher really took time to get to know me as a person, and that meant a lot to me. And it's a lot of my teaching philosophy, that moment in time. And it kind of validated why I want to be a teacher too.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Somebody took so much time and effort that they really didn't need to.
No, they didn't. It's not part of their job description. Like it was, it's a public school. He's the basketball coach. He's got 3 kids of his own, and it was pretty remarkable. So I'm forever grateful for that experience and it really validated me as my teaching philosophy and how I want to be as a person.
Right. So share with us a little bit about it feels like you're creating a movement. You're bringing some awareness to people. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like and what are you doing with that?
So later in September, I'm going to start the Why Do I Matter Challenge. And this is a challenge to anybody really. But for students, take 15 seconds, make a video and tell the whole world why you matter. Tell the whole world why you're unique. Tell the whole world what makes you you. Though it's a 15-second challenge, and then hopefully it'll people see the challenge and people will see these kids kind of showing a little bit of vulnerability and humility, and want to participate in too. And I think in any movement like the Water Bucket Challenge or challenges for different causes, when somebody does it, another person will do it, another person will do it, and they'll see that person do it, another person will do it. And I think if you take time to really sit down and think about it, it'll make you feel a little bit better about yourself.
And the objective of this is what? What's the perfect outcome for you?
Perfect outcome for me is if it changes one kid's life and I never thought of it that way, but I'm being somebody I'm not. I'm totally cool with being myself. I'm totally cool. I'm special just the way I am. I can change anything I want to being just who I am. I don't have to conform to anybody. Right? Grades are nice and they should try really hard in the classroom, students. But at the end of the day, if a student can realize that they're fine just the way they are, and that they matter in the world, and that they can change the world, and that's a win.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So during our previous interview, I asked you a question. I said, what would be the topic if you were to deliver a keynote?
Yeah.
And your answer blew me away. Share that with the audience. Do you remember what it is?
If I had to write a book, or if I had to go on a bigger stage, it would definitely be the student you thought you knew, or the students you thought you knew. And it's just because, like, in teaching, and I hate to, I'm beating a dead horse here, but we're so, like, indoctrinated with the grade book, and that's how we know our students, right?
Right.
The student-teacher conference that starts off poorly because all you have to talk about is negatives, right? So I think, if I could compile a bunch of student stories, and teachers be like, wow, that actually happens in students' lives. Like, students deal with divorce every day. Students deal with pets that are dying. They're dealing with death for the first time, or they're dealing with the death in the family, or they go home and are looking for their next meal. I think we're lost in that, because we see them maybe 2 hours a day, and the other 22 hours we have no idea what's going on, right? So students go through things just like we do, and they shouldn't have to be forced to put on a smile. It should never be forced. Like,
and they're just learning emotional intelligence as well, right?
Like, imagine trying to hide the fact that last night you found out your parents are divorced and you're 10.
Yeah.
You've been used to living with mom and dad, and now you have to split time between mom and dad.
Yeah.
And we don't know that, because we don't ask. And I go back to what I said earlier, like, what no one else sees. Challenge yourself to see what no one else sees. See the person, not the grade. Deal with the person. You can make a day. You could make a year. Mr. Anderson, no, he didn't make. He made my year. He didn't know. He just dealt with me as a person.
Right.
Where? Subpar student. Didn't put any effort. Didn't care. He dealt with me, and he won.
Yeah.
Deal with the people.
So give me some insight or some advice, because when my kids right now are 10 and 12, so when they come home, and how is school? Good. Anything exciting happen? Not really. It's hard to engage.
I was the same way. Yeah, I mean, I was the same way, and I had great parents. I gave them the same answer, right? Because no one wants to share. But I think the most important is don't be frustrated by it, but also ask them, what are you learning that's interesting in school? What drives you? What passion? What are your hobbies? Like, engross yourself in hobbies. Engross yourself in what they like to do, even if you don't like to do it. Right? My mom knows zero about baseball. Zero. When I was 3-year-old and I was obsessed with baseball, she tied a rope around a tree and tied a ball to it so I could hit. I didn't like it because it wasn't the real thing, and she had to pitch to me. But I loved, and I didn't know she knew anything about baseball, but I love that. Right? And it's like, drive. If your kids show an interest in something, drive it. Learn to like it. Take a passion in it. Right? And that'll mean the world to them. Right? And so then maybe they come home one day, hey, Dad, can we go play the guitar? Right? Because you're doing something together. It has nothing to do with the math homework. You can get to that.
Right.
But they'll be more willing to work with you with schoolwork if you play the video game, play Fortnite, right? Learn Fortnite, right? Learn the video game, learn the comic book, learn whatever it is, the card game that they play.
Right.
Right? Just take a passion in it. Like, share that passion with them.
So when you got to spend that hour and a half, did your parents find out about that?
Yeah. No,
right?
That's the first thing I said.
Right.
I still have the Mass Shop jersey. It's actually in my car right now. My car's a mess. It's actually in my car. Like, I'll always have that. Always have that moment. He signed it, and he probably doesn't remember it, right?
So a cool challenge for a teacher is that hey, do something to the children to where they come home and can't wait to share, right?
Yeah, and you hope they do that anyway, just because you're busting your butt to make your class interesting. And like I said, I teach social studies, so we can do some cool stuff in here with wars and everything like that, and get a little interactive. But as a teacher, it should be your goal to go home and be talked about.
Yeah, totally. Right.
Mr. Ellis came down hard on me today because he gave me 600 chances, and I still was messing around.
Right.
It's just something like that. something to brighten their day. Tell the joke, dehumanize yourself, make fun of yourself.
Right. That's awesome. So, all right. So you're starting this challenge in the
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
So if people want to support you, they want to see some of these videos, like
Yeah.
what do you?
So we're starting a Facebook group.
Okay.
Facebook page is being made. Then I have a website that tells you a little bit more about me and my challenge and kind of the background stuff I'm doing. That's Andrew Ellis, edu.com. Sorry, I just made it. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing people's advice and hearing their story. On my website, there's a place where you can drop me a line. Just tell me your story. Tell me why you made it. Tell me what makes you unique. But I delved deeper into why I struggled so much as a kid and my irrational thoughts as a kid and what really drove me to be the teacher I am today. And I'm not a perfect teacher. I'm just doing one way out of 10,000. But at the end of the day, it works for me. And if I can make a student's life better just for that day, then that's a huge win for me and for that student and their family and everything like that. So teaching is much more than being transactional. You have a chance every day to deal with people and to change people's lives. And you may not realize it then, but what you say that day, how you act that day, really means something to the students. Even though if they don't want to let you see it, it really means something to them. And you'll be surprised how much they open up to you, how much better of conversations they have because they trust you.
Yeah. So, okay. So we'll probably use a hashtag too, I assume.
Yeah, hashtag Why Do You Matter Challenge. Hopefully that hashtag's open. But yeah, man,
it's over.
At the end of September, it'll be live. The website's live already, but we'll use a hashtag and I'll have an introductory video up there and I'll use some of my students, my great Edmond students, and we'll go from there. But yeah, we're trying to put some stuff together and wristbands will be here on Wednesday. Hopefully they turn out all right. My first batch didn't turn out too good. It was a little hard to read, but yeah, man, they'll be available to purchase on the website. And if you have a chance to make, as an educator, as someone that deals with a lot of people, or even as parents, if you have a chance to make a kid's day, then do it. Yeah. Talk about sports for 5 minutes with the kid, do it. You have a chance to act like you know what you're talking about, even though you don't. I had a student, I actually have him this year in 7th grade, but I have him in 5th grade, and he's a little entrepreneur. He talks about he likes to buy silver and gold and invest in stocks. And he used to tell me about stocks and buying gold and how he was making money. I knew nothing about it, nothing. But I learned because that was important to him. I wasn't going to change the topic to sports because he didn't like sports. And that's all right. But I tried to learn as much as I could about stocks and diversification and things of what he was talking about. But he knew he could come talk to me about that.
Right.
That's totally cool. Like, I dig it. But creating that relationship where a student can come to you and, tell you something that has nothing to do with their curriculum because they want to tell you, and that they make their day.
Yeah. Why you matter challenge. Absolutely.
Yeah. Why do you matter? And just that wristband's a simple reminder, like that you do matter. That being the best version of yourself is 100% okay. And if I could change the world, I would make sure that every kid knew they mattered.
So, Mr. Ellis,
yeah,
I think it's amazing that you took something that was hard and difficult in your childhood, and you're actually devoting your life to making sure that doesn't happen to other children, and that's absolutely beautiful.
Right.
And I also know that the salary of a teacher is not something to.
Well, that, and I don't. If anybody teaches for the money, they're crazy because they're not making much. But it's not about that. It's the fulfillment you have every day, knowing that you busted your butt to do the very best for the 16 kids that were sitting in your class for an hour. And I'm blessed to work at an amazing school with amazing faculty I can bounce my ideas off of, and amazing principals, and that I can go in and say, I really failed at that lesson, but it was a good shot. And they're going to say, yeah, you did, but come back stronger the next day. And that's totally cool. But yeah, I'm lucky to be a teacher. And, if I made more money, I'd be doing a proof talk. So it's, but in all reality, like, teachers are such a saint. I'm not calling myself a saint, but, they really, they have summers off for a good reason. Because they really take the time and take the effort to make sure that the people in the classroom are the priority.
Yeah.
And doing what's best for the student. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're having a bad day. It's making sure that student has a good day.
Right.
They're special people, and they should have lots of accolades.
So once again, I mean, thank you so much for what you do, and also not just in being a teacher, but you're really trying to shine a light in a different way to bring out the best of these kids.
Yep.
And thank you again for doing what you do. And I mean, I know you're paying for those bracelets out of your own pocket. It's not like it's a fun.
No, that's totally cool. That's totally cool. And I'm a baseball recruiter in the summer, so it's all right.
That's awesome. All right, so for everybody that's still tuned in, thank you so much for being with us. Check out these conversations and more at whywarriornation.com.
Yeah, very humbled by everybody that listened. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, thank you so much for your time and being here. And we look forward to seeing some of these videos, and hopefully, your movement is going to catch fire. So
yeah, I hope.
It deserves it.
I hope. I mean, like I said, if it can change one person's life or make someone sit down and think about why they matter, then that's a huge win. So
that's it. All right, Andrew, thank you so much.
No problem. Blessed by the platform that you guys gave me. Thank you.
Thank you.